Bitcoin does have a way that it functions within a 4-year cycle. And as everybody knows by now, after each halving, there's normally a new rally and a new all-time high being created. Halving 1, all-time high. Halving 2, all-time high. Halving 3, all-time high. And then halving 4, that was May last year, a year ago. And we pushed and we created a new all-time high. And the big question and the big worry around everybody's mind at this stage, if you're not new to crypto, is that, well, is the top then in and is it over and is there a real bear market coming? And what this chart basically says is no. Bitcoin still has more potential for upside. If we look at the timing set of a halving to halving, within that area, there's within those 4 years, there's normally an accumulation that occurs and a distribution that occurs. Something similar to this simplified chart that I'm showing you guys, meaning there's a bottom being created. This was potentially Bitcoin at 16,000. And then as the trend moves up, you'll have these sideways or kangaroo moments in the market when the price just basically stagnates between an upper and a lower range, chops around, creates a lot of uncertainty, then to only see then later that it breaks out. So if we take that back to the charts and we look at what Bitcoin is doing, we've been experiencing just that. Breakout, sideways, breakout, sideways, breakout, sideways. Well, sideways with a little bit of downside there to that. Okay, so in the simplest way, the argument is that what happens is when the market finds a base like this and it starts building between an upper and a lower range, that is reaccumulation that occurs. And the way that we measure the health for this is by looking at the RSI. So all we're trying to do, like in any of the past cycles, all we're trying to do is just to see whether we are creating strong bearish divergence, because by definition, although it says strong bearish divergence, it's a bullish momentum indicator. And only once we fall below the support that gets created at that pivot. So I'm going to mark that line and I'm going to mark that line. So only once we fall below that range, that's when things become bear market. Bear market. So it means that although our altcoins have been, plummeted, and has been punished. I mean, if you look at the year, it's red. It's red. 60, 70, 40%. Those kind of things. Although those coins have been hurt extremely, it is purely just because of the dominance and not so much so because of Bitcoin turning bear market just yet. Now, the headline for the video is based on the idea that somewhere in that little candle set there, I'm seeing the beginnings of a breakout. And that breakout then is leaning to the support of an idea that if we go through the emotional market cycle, that the altcoins are now entering either an anger or a depression phase, meaning they've dumped so hard, nobody cares anymore. Okay. So now that we've established an idea that I'm still bullish, there's a timing component that I want to just rehash for the benefit of anybody new watching. If we look at the way the price moves between halvings, we find that from a timing point of view, if I take a fib, a time-based fib, so like a normal fib, it will work on levels, retracing. This one works on timing, simple. And I switch on the 38.2 and the 618, which is your golden ratio within time. I switch on that. And let's make the color nice and blue and make that nice and orange. There we go. And I do that. What we find is between halvings, Bitcoin tops out at around the 38.2 and bottoms out at around the 618. And the same is true. This is just a nicer looking version of that. The same is true for halving 2, topped out, bottomed out. And the previous cycle, halving 3, topped out, bottomed out. Now, for a lot of the cases, these lows around this area people weren't too bearish. I have to admit, I was there, looked at that. The narrative of selling that there's more was not that bad. So the altcoins was performing way better at that stage. That's where the market is different at the stage. Okay. Now, the way that I can show you that is by bringing up the dominance. So if you look at BTC dominance around this area, you can see that at these lows, the dominance has been or was trending down already, meaning that money wasn't looking at Bitcoin, but it was using Bitcoin and the crypto market in general to look for better deals. People were hunting altcoins and holding onto their 100Xs and their 1000Xs bags like crazy. So that was a really good environment. But now here's the catch. As the market moved up to create the all-time high, the dominance stopped, and that's complacency. So typically, that is when everybody that got trapped in that pullback or was still looking for higher highs said, no worry, we just need to hold. And that complacency is normally the emotion that we need to see that traps people in what is then the next big bear cycle down. Now, if I take this information and I look at what we have now, we have not really had a real alt season as such. So we've got meme seasons, but those market caps are so tiny and insignificant, they haven't impacted the Bitcoin dominance chart at all. Okay. So we've got that situation where I think that the market's going to start moving now. The alts might not perform that great this cycle as we were hoping. There's much more of them at this stage, to be honest. So the market cap is getting diluted much easier than it was before. Okay, but let's say that there's this last little push that I'm going to show you now. The dominance will potentially only now start breaking down, because although Bitcoin, if you look at this, although Bitcoin still looks bullish from this perspective. I mean, if you're in that candle on the 15-minute, it looks bearish as hell. But if you look at it from a realistic hodler investor perspective, okay, we've got that scenario that the alts are so undervalued that money should now, if you know what you're looking for, not be looking at Bitcoin anymore, because Bitcoin has upward potential, say maybe 120. But the alts have got so much more potential. And that's where my attention is now going to start moving away from Bitcoin to these alts for that reason. Another reason why I would say I'm still bullish on Bitcoin from a timing point of view, just to end off the messages. When I say to you guys on these highs and lows, the top is normally around the 38.2, the bottom's around the 618. If I project 4 years into the future, roughly when the next halving is going to be, which is something you can almost set your clock to. And I move this on to say, well, let's talk about the next 4 years. It's then simple to say, to assume, investor and trader rule number 1, always treat the trend as if it's going to last forever. I've clearly shown you guys a trend. So it's fair to assume that this is still potentially possible. And although the divergence is there, until we fall below pivots, which we haven't done yet, we have to treat this as bullish. Remember just one thing, guys. I cannot provide any financial advice, as I am not a professional. I do this for a living, and I just play the odds. And statistically, it's still enough time for us to make a nice big rally. Okay, over to the altcoins. So last week, I gave you guys two coins that I felt has got first mover potential. The one being Bitcoin Cash and the other one being AVAX. Now, last week, Friday, if I were to mark that out on the chart, when I did the stream with you guys, oops, we were there. The candle was somewhere in between there at around $300. And over the weekend, one Bitcoin Cash became $100 more expensive. So we saw a 28% increase in price. Now, if you guys bought Bitcoin Cash over the weekend, kudos to you. The whole perception around the rally was that we've had strong bullish divergence and everything that I wanted to see this thing moving. But as I said in today's stream, I want to show you as a beginner the easiest way to identify coins that can move first or coins that are in a bull market so that you can, or in bullish momentum, so that you can play the emotional market cycle. Buy when people aren't believing it. Because if you look at the prices at the now, looking at the charts at now, it's fair to assume that people aren't believing that there's going to be a bull market. So I'm going to switch on the trend scope indicator. I'm going to switch on the super trend. Okay. And then for those that has opened their Blofen account or their Bybit account or Prime account that's got access to the buddy indicator, you can ladder this in by saying, okay, override the colors to give you the indication of what kind of market environment you're in. Okay, and then you can use the super trend. And once those candles get colored light blue on the downtick, and the super trend gives you the blue, you basically have all the momentum oscillators, all the TA done in the background with the indicator to help you start grabbing in more points. It's literally as simple as that. Okay, there you have it. Light blue with the blue on the base. Light blue with the blue on the base. And the thing about indicators is, guys, is they don't have downtime, they don't have opinions, they don't have biases, and so forth. They just show you what the oscillators, what the momentum, the real buying behind it is actually doing. Have a lovely day. Thanks so much, guys. And yeah, let's see. Is there anything else? 90 days. It's just a dip. Yeah, for crypto traders, it's just a dip. It's nothing too crazy. Okay, guys. Talk to you later. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.